Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is April the 3rd of 2024, and I am Nick, and this is Quinn, and it's a Manga Talky Day because it's a Wednesday. Welcome back, everyone.
That's what we decided to rename the podcast to, right? Manga Talky Time?
Yeah, that'll definitely, yeah. Honestly, I don't know if that would be optimized for search engines or not more than Weekly Manga Recap. So,
well, here's the question: how do you spell talkie?
I would do it with a Y.
See, that's what's gonna fuck us, because some people are gonna be like IE, like a walkie-talkie,
Yeah, well, they're wrong. So we don't need them in our audience.
Yeah,
people who spell talkie wrong.
Yeah, you guys can't be a part of our audience if you spell talkie wrong and you pronounce it caramel. You're not allowed in our audience.
I'm fine with both. That's a point I've never really been all that gung-ho about. I think that caramel and caramel both sound fine, which makes sense because I am from the South, but not that South.
What's further south?
Oh, Georgia.
Wait, where are you?
But I'm in Florida.
That's further south.
That's not how that works. So.
Like after Georgia, it starts to loop back around.
Well, because then you're getting closer to Miami and stuff, so you become less southern the further south you go. Okay. So, yeah. If you are, and honestly, it's not so much really geographical as it is like rural to urban areas. So
okay. I thought for a moment that you were going to say like, oh no, Cuba. That's where you're really south. That's
just
where the
a bunch of white trash hanging out in Cuba.
Well, let's be careful about how we phrase some of that. Everyone from Cuba, very, very cool as far as I'm concerned.
Oh boy! All right.
It's like the idea I land my boat in Cuba and they're just like, "Well, howdy y'all? How y'all doing today?" I'm like, "Well, this is not what I was expecting." I really studied up on my Spanish for no reason.
Oh, I know plenty of that Espanol. I was gonna say that if you spell talkie should only be IE if it is as part of the plural form. I am very adamant about this point. I don't care. I don't care if you're saying as walkie-talkie. I still think that that's wrong.
Really? So how do you, if you were to type out the sentence, you're writing a book. I was about to say a manifesto. That's a different thing. You're writing a book, and a character has to use a walkie-talkie to talk to someone. How do you type walkie-talkie?
WALKY -TALKY. That is how I'm gonna type it.
Now,
I don't care if that's what I'm saying.
Wasn't walkie-talkie though like a trademark thing? Like wasn't that? I assume because like normally you would just call them like what two-way radios or something.
Yeah, that'd be the more thing. But it's one of those like it's like Kleenex or facial tissue. No one calls it a facial tissue. They call it a Kleenex, even if it's not that brand. So I am very much aware that that is wrong, but at the same time, Quinn, calling it a GIF is wrong, and I'm sticking to that pronunciation as well.
That's fair. Now, Nick, what happens if you go to 20 Fenchurch Street in London? That is
20 Fenchurch Street?
Yes, that is where you will find the financial district and the building commonly known as the Walkie-Talkie. Spelled exactly as you're referring to, yeah. Because it resembles a walkie-talkie, apparently. This building looks kind of hideous, I'm not going to lie.
It actually kind of does. It looks like a 90s cell phone. Jesus. Yeah. Or an 80s cell phone,
That's a sturdy building. You could drop that building down a staircase. It's going to be one piece at the end.
Hit it with the giant sledgehammer. It's still fine.
Yeah.
All you can do with it is take calls, though. You can't even do outgoing calls. Yeah. All the buttons are just there for decoration.
Yeah, it doesn't text or anything like that. You had to extend an antenna. We're vamping because there's less serious this week.
We are. Yeah, there's no One Piece this week, and we don't have as many irregular series as we kind of tend to around this time, because there's no World Trigger seemingly this month.
Yep.
We're gonna be in that test forever. So instead, we're just gonna like talk about. I mean, look, we got like some big things that do happen in manga this week.
Yes.
People were kind of freaking out over a couple of things that happened in some of these chapters.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about. Can I make a quick point about World Trigger?
Yes. Of course.
Because we comment on it very frequently that we're stuck in this away loop over and over, or this away test mission over and over again. How frustrating it is. Every so often, like every like 5 or 6 months or so, I decide to Google Osamu versus Ninomiya, and I just watched that scene where he actually hits him with the hound. And every time I watch it, I'm like, he can spend as long as he wants in this away test. I don't care. Like, he earned it. I don't know what to say. This scene's so good that he can spend as long as he wants doing this fucking test. I don't know. This opinion will change once May comes around. I haven't watched that scene, and I'm like, how long are we here? But in this moment right now, I'm like, or whatever. Ashihara, you take as long as you need.
Okay. I was just trying to figure out who you were confusing him with. Anyway,
just words.
My Hero Academia, just words. It doesn't even matter. You're gonna call him Tomowababa. Like that's.
I was like Asa Mikoru Talky McGoodbooble.
My Hero Academia. Chapter number 418, Meek Spirits. So, Deku, with the help of all the vestiges who gave themselves up to let him break through, including at the very end, Nana Shimura's vestige, embracing the spirit of her son, have allowed Deku to reach the innermost turmoil of Shigaraki's mind, where his home is and where he was hugging him on and his powers first awakened. And that poor pupper, it disintegrates and goes bleh.
Yeah, can we stop seeing this, Horikoshi? Like, I don't know why. I've already watched this before. I've already seen this scene, and now I'm watching it again, and they're like he goes to like grab his sister, he's jumping ahead a second, and we're like, no, we can't let that happen. I was like, then why did I have to watch the dog? Like, why are we doing this again?
Tenko's sister freaks out when she sees that he has, accidentally killed Mon. He goes to grasp her, and Deku gets in the way and grabs his hands, and he's in little kid form, complete with short shorts, and grasps hands with the inner mind version of Shigaraki, and immediately his power also activates and starts to disintegrate Kid Deku's arms. But Deku still refuses to let go of him, and he just thinks to himself, this is a realm where memory materializes, so I've got to picture it. I've got to picture not letting go of him and keep remembering those hands. All of One for All has been smashed against him. The last piece to hit him with is me. And when Shigaraki asks why, Deku just answers, because I saw you crying. But Tenko just says, I did this. I chose this. It was my choice to destroy this house and my family. Otherwise, what's the point of these hands? Who else would ever validate my existence given the way I am? So this is definitely Shigaraki talking, because I'm pretty sure that little kid Tenko didn't say words like validate my existence all the time. So
my head feels all discombobulated. Like, all right, this isn't the fucking 5-year-old anymore.
I have a word-a-day calendar. I don't know if I need to save this kid.
But it's too high up, so I can't change it. So I only know discombobulated.
It's a really bad situation. It discombobulates me all the time. No, that's just because
this one.
Yeah. So there is a surge of emotion as a result from Shigaraki that is pushing back against Deku, so he has to try and really focus on holding on. And at this moment, there is something that is really heavy in the balance, because Shigaraki has all this hatred and catharsis, and the other side, grief and confusion. He is wavering on the edge at this point. And Tenko tries to get Deku to let go. We get some more flashes of memories from, the aftermath of this, when he was a dirty, crusty kid wandering around and nobody fucking helped him. But Deku says others have reached out. And Deku can sense the hatred cracking. It's happening. And he says others have reached out to take my hand and give me peace. And that's why I am here. Oh.
Yeah.
He did a different I am here thing. So he collapses. His arms have completely disintegrated up to past the elbow, but he slumps down right next to Tenko, and their heads are close together. And there is a vision of a playground, and some little kids call out to Tenko, and they're like, you should be All Might. And Tenko looks around, and he says, nah, because I'm a villain. I fight in the name of evil to destroy. And he fully starts turning back into Shigaraki. And he says, it doesn't matter if you stamp out my hatred, even if I wind up hollow. The villains need a hero of their own. And as he starts to turn into Shigaraki, he then starts to disintegrate and fade away as well. His hands are crumbling apart, just like his disintegration has been used. And, of course, if you stream an event to the entire whole-ass world, there's going to be some little shits watching. And
I love the first person we see is just some businessman just looking at his phone. Man, fucking kill that kid.
Kill that kid.
There'd be that dude.
Because the second guy is someone who's huddled, and he's huddled in his own dark room.
He could even be kind of
societal reject.
You could even mistake that for maybe even a teenager, somebody who's in a period of real, sort of hormonal conflict with the world. They hate everything because they're in an angsty mood. The other guy, he has a briefcase. He just got home from work. Also, mind-blowing to me that this is going on. And there are other people who just aren't looking at phones right now. Nobody's just hey, did you see the battle to potentially destroy Mount Fuji is currently going on right now?
I had some TPS reports to file. I just figured that, if All For One takes over, still got any of those TPS reports filed.
Yeah. Someone's and the bagel shop closes at 4. So what do you want me to do? Okay? Not have bagels?
I shall spare you your quirk because you filed your TPS reports, because clearly...
This is a good employee, I can tell.
You have a place in the society that I shall create.
I shall create more TPS reports for you to file.
And with your TPS filing quirk... Actually, that's just my job. My quirk is, having long hangnails.
Doesn't seem useful, but I'm still going to take that.
Maybe I too will need long hangnails one day.
It'll be part of an elaborate way to counter up one of the hero's plans.
Also, if a TPS reporting hero comes by, then I'll be prepared this way. The result of this in the physical world is that all the fingers that were surrounding Shigaraki are crumbling away, but we don't see really what's left. They just say, we can't see Midoriya in there. But, there's still a lot of debris. Who knows what the fuck's going on? And then something else happens, Quinn. A memory starts to play back. A memory of someone going to talk to Tenko's father, Mr. Shimura. And he recognizes the person who approaches him as being from, you're from Coca Construction. How's the old lumbago? What a phrase.
Yeah, this is how people talk. How's the old lumbago? I say that, is lumbago not just a back, your back?
Because it's lumbar, yeah?
Yeah. It describes pain in the lower back region. Ooh, Wikipedia says it's an outdated term. So I think it's very funny that that's how we know these are old people talking.
These are old people. You know, these
I
people
say that these characters are probably well, not All For One. He's like 400 or some shit, but Shigaraki's dad might be canonically younger than both of us.
Possibly at this point. So of course Shigaraki's like, wait, what the hell? This isn't my memory. I don't remember this. Where'd this coming from? What is this? And it fast forward to, again, someone from the perspective of the rememberer, talking to Mr. Shimura, who says, oh sure, the little guy is a handful. And he is asked, how about his quirk? Oh no, nothing yet. And then Deku starts to realize it's not Tenko's memory. Who the hell is this? And then, of course, who should come bursting out of the mindscape like the world's most unwelcome sandworm, but All For One, who goes, ah!
Everyone's going crazy for Shai Hulud, so gotta put a sandworm into everything at this point.
Just swallows up Shigaraki, the internal version of him, and says, such a foolish vessel, losing in a battle of wills to some kid, to this absolute nobody, striving for strength yet invariably weak, Tenko Shimura, you pathetic imbecile, not once in your pitiful life has any choice been your own. I'm behind everything!
I'm Ito Yugoku. I'm the one... You just find out he's actually the origin for everything in every different series. He's like, actually, I founded the world government.
I told Isho Arakawa to get Akane's dad kicked out of Rakugo school.
I was like, listen here, Dio, your dad's a real jerk. You should kill the family dog.
I told Sora that he should get into skating. Oh God. Look, I've seen some people that have been talking about this because, of course, like, oh my God, All For One's come back and stuff. And I've seen people be like upset about this decision, and I've seen people defending it as like, look, this is a storytelling beat that makes sense. I know it makes sense. I know it does. I don't care. I don't like All For One. He's boring and stupid. So
yeah, so what I will say is I think this was sort of a catch-22 that Hiro had Horikoshi had sort of written himself into, which is Shigaraki and All For One are, inextricably linked. Like, you can't, like, there's always going to be some influence of All For One in Shigaraki, but Shigaraki is the main antagonist. So, thus, to scale things, you have to have All For One get beat before that. So, we as an audience have seen All For One get clowned. Like, he got shit stomped, fucking lost. Like, he was a baby screaming, begging for somebody to save him. Like, very pathetic. But he's going to be relevant to this story. We have to see this. So, yeah, like, there's an addition here. As for the actual, like, plot thing here that's, like, he's potentially the catalyst to everything, it's something that gets done very frequently and is rarely ever interesting. The waha, don't you realize that I'm actually responsible for everything? There's not many examples of this being super satisfying narratively. But, I guess we needed like another dramatic beat, essentially.
Shigaraki, when were you ever under the impression that any choice you made was your own?
Yeah, I mean, that is almost literally exactly the line he says. It's pretty bad.
Look, I know it makes sense. It's not as bad as, like, when Naruto decided at the very end, like, oh, well, there was a little bit of lore about this, Kaguya Otsutsuki lady. She's the final villain, and Black Zetsu has been working for her this whole time. It's like, I threw in a few hints in the background there. It's like, at least All For One has been, involved in things since the very beginning. So him making leaving a couple little hints that this could happen because he left a message of himself within Shigaraki. Like this doesn't like just come out of nowhere, obviously.
I mean, this does make me ask questions, and some of these questions might be dumb because I'm not like super into the My Hero sort of lore in the same way. So like one question I have, and maybe you're able to answer this, Nick, is like, is this meant to imply that he knew Shigaraki was going to get a powerful quirk like this?
This is definitely seems to imply that he had an influence on Shigaraki's quirk awakening.
Okay.
He could very well have, in fact, done something to impart decay to Shigaraki.
There's like a scene of him using like an invisibility quirk, and he's just pushing the dog into Shigaraki's hands.
It was I who made that dog die. Here, I'll do it again.
Stop! Every week, it's just another chapter of them killing the dog at the start. I'm like, stop doing this. Okay.
When you think about it, I mean, for them, if Horikoshi does from here establish Shigaraki's quirk actually came from All for One, that also does make sense because the way that quirks have been established is that they often have a genetic precursor in some way. So decay coming from a family where the only thing we know about is that his grandmother had float, that's definitely kind of like a sudden mutation thing. Not to say that, of course, that can't happen because, of course, the quirks had to come from somewhere. But, it's not like this is going to come out of nowhere. There's enough going on from what has been established that you can like see where things are coming from, unless something comes really, really far from out of left field at this point. I'm not saying that this is like a bad plot twist or anything like that. I think that structurally speaking, this all makes sense. It makes sense if you want Shigaraki to be the person redeemed, to still have All for One be the guy that they have to beat at the end, like as a physical beat up guy. But I don't like All for One. It's entirely like we're sick of him. It's pure personal preference. And lastly, I've seen some people kind of freaking out over Deku losing his arms. This is all an internal dream world thing, so he's probably fine. Put it on the board for inconsequential arm losses, everybody. Now, if it turns out he did lose his arms, then that'll be kind of crazy.
Until they're like, Deku, your real quirk manifested. You're regrow your arms, boy. He's like, this is very handy. Can I regrow anything else? Like, absolutely not. Handy. Deku says, pun not intended. All right, well, let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is going to be chapter number 201, Deadly Rule Shiratori. So, language, with her shark teeth, is cackling happily. She's like, this is great. Unluck, finally. My 4.6 billion year dream is coming true.
After 4.6 million years.
I finally feed. Time to do a language game. So yes, it is going to be an unforgettable game. And Nico's like, wait, like a linguistics game? And he's like, I'm not good at these. And she's like, yes, let's begin our game of Shiratori. For those in the audience, it's a thing that you've probably seen before. It's basically a game where you say a word, and then you have the next person has to come up with a word that starts with the same syllable that the previous word ended with. And if you end a word with N, you lose the game. There's similar things here, like, say a word, next word has to start with the last letter of this. It's been common enough. But there's going to be extra rules to it because they're going to be using all languages. Every round that this game passes, a new language will be added, meaning you will have to like translate between different alphabets. And Nico is like, so like, how many languages are we talking about? Like all the United Nations languages? And she's like, 7,000 of the confirmed languages in this loop. Like, she is very pumped up right now.
Oh yeah.
So this is actually kind of cool. We haven't gotten to see something fun and creative like this. I think since they fought like Spring, it's usually just been like, how can we punch this thing to oblivion? But
Right.
like the idea that several UMAs can like kind of pose challenges does make things kind of interesting. In addition, the rule is still there. If you end a word in the Japanese syllable N, you lose, and that includes the Japanese symbolic writing form of katakana as well. And any word you say will manifest into reality. So if you say something, you're going to create it, and that's how we're trying to kill each other, which is such a wild and fun
It
concept.
is.
Um,
It's like very turn-based combat,
yes.
because you take turns going back and forth. Um, but also she establishes that it's not just if you end on N, it's if the word you end on translates to anything in any of the other languages that ends in N.
Yeah.
Like,
It is very, very difficult. And there's also a little extra thing going on here, which is to say that Nico never had time to really heal Ichiko's wounds before he put her in the cryogenic freeze. So she's going to die in there without being treated. So he is on a time limit, and and language knows this. So part of it is she's going to kind of draw it out because eventually Ichigo will die and Unforgettable will trigger and everything like that. So very, very dangerous. Um, she activates her first thing. She says meteor. I'm not going to go through all the symbolic, linguistic translations through all this. I'm just going to say essentially what words it's translating out to. So it's meteor. And she's like, yes, I've summoned this meteor. It is basically exactly the same as the one your boss would make. It's an iron meteor. We're trying to kill each other. This is great. And Nico asks the question, he's like, so wait, how long do these things, like, do they continue to persist after we summon them? And language is like, sort of. It basically comes down to your will. She's more evil about it. She's not actually like, well, hold on, let me explain the rules to you. She's basically like, if you believe in it, then sure. Like, this is all about your willpower and everything like that. So this meteor is going to come at him, and Nico chooses his first word. He chooses Aegis, summoning the ultimate shield that Fuko mentioned to everybody. He summons it. It's a little wobbly though, because he doesn't really know what it looks like. He's
right.
kind of like vague on some of the details. And they're like, is this going to work? He's like, shit, I should have asked Fuko for more details. And it works. The shield manages to withstand the meteor blast, but it breaks. It shatters to pieces. So language notes up. She's like, this is bad, isn't it? Because you were probably asking that question before because you wanted to see if this would stay. And once a word's been used, it can't be used again. So you've used your trump card, the ultimate shield that can block everything. You're screwed. So he does get to add a new language. He adds English, changes the letter from Aegis to science. So boom, he can conjure up a whole bunch of science around. And she's like, you're not attacking. He's like, yeah, so the previous loop, this unforgettable beat you using whatever, that's not me. I am Nico Vorgel, the longest serving member of the science division, and I'm going to beat you using my own skills. So let's hear your choice. So language chooses eruption. There are going to start being these explosions that will occur. Ichigo basically uses some of her soul powers to like kind of activate some of the little like space orbs to kind of help Nico escape this situation, and kind of freeze things. But it's a little close, essentially. Like it's very close call. But this shocks language. She's like, what? And Nico explains like, language. You're right. Nature is strong. It's sudden and irrational. And that's why science was created, to negate the world's irrationalities. She's like, all right, you're not going to do this by like negating things alone. You're going to have to eventually try to like kill me. So she chooses the new letter, lightning. So she's going to summon a big thing of lightning. Nico summons wind. And she's like, wind's not going to like blow away lightning, stupid. Like, that's not how Pokemon works. Flying types aren't strong against lightning. It's the other way around, doofus. And she's like, wait, that's where the light that meteor got smashed before in the first round. It left iron residue. And if I use the wind to stir up the residue around her and ignite it with the lightning, then the iron residue plus air plus an ignition equals a dust explosion. So language is caught up in this giant explosion, and language realizes that the Aegis he did earlier was just an opening move to kind of set all of this up. And we end the chapter with Nico smiling, saying, "This is really a deadly language game of Shiratori, isn't it? This is pretty damn wild."
Yeah, it's a really good chapter.
Yeah.
I love the gimmick to this contest between them. I like how right away you understand like why Nico in the previous loop won. It's just that he had Unforgettable, so he always just kept track of everything that had been said before, and so he never had. And he didn't forget any of the languages, and so he didn't fall into any pitfalls in that. So presumably he did something similar to what current Nico is doing. But probably had a much easier time of doing it.
Yes.
But I love some of the little choices that are made in this. I like how, as Nico is doing everything, Ichiko is constantly just up in the background there, and she's just a little ghostly head with like octopus tentacle hair that is very expressive. I like all the expressions that she's making, where instead of constantly being like, "Nico, you're so stupid," you're like, "Oh, Nico, you're being really cool right now."
Yeah.
And the combination of things that take effect, where it looks like he's just going to be overwhelmed by sheer force, but because he's got all this scientific knowledge and creativity, he's able to fight back. The dust explosion is a great way to cap this chapter. I love the speech that he gives about how, like, hey, humanity uses science in order to battle back against the overwhelming power of nature. It's all very, very cool.
Yeah.
So this is a great opening to this combat, this very different kind of combat that we get from the last several battles that we've had in this series.
Yeah, this could end up being like an extremely cool fight if this continues like in this level, even if it's just for like one more chapter. This is like super cool and compelling. It's a very inventive fight. It feels like there's a lot of imagination going on here, and I like it. This could have been a potentially very boring conflict. See Grammy, whatever his stupid first name was. Like when you allow anyone to do anything, it oftentimes can be very disappointing. But the idea that Nico is specifically going to be like, I'm going to use science and scientific properties to win this is cool.
Right. All right. Well, now from there, let's move on to Blue Box.
Blue Box.
Chapter number 143, Forehead Flick. So we go a little ways back in the tournament because we kind of need to establish what happened on the other half of that tournament ladder before we got to Haruyo versus Talky. And it turns out that, Yusa and Haruto did, in fact, get far enough in the tournament to face each other. And, yeah, I mean, Yusa won. Like,
Yeah.
Of course he did. But he acknowledges that his little brother, or Haruto rather, acknowledges, like, he's gotten better. It's like we're playing shogi and he's predicting my moves. So it's not like a rout or anything, but Yusa definitely wins comfortably. But afterwards Yusa says, "Hey, you've gotten better." Haruto, of course, is not satisfied with this. He says, "Shut up," even though Yusa's just like, "That's being nice."
I was actually being a cool brother for that moment. I was really trying to help you out.
And Haruto's like, "Oh, I wanted to crush him, but this is how it turns out." And then he does go and he watches the match between Talky and Haruyo, and he thinks to himself, "If only I could have worn down Shuji's stamina more." Because we get to the finals, and yeah, of course, Yusa got to the finals to go up against Talky, and they are facing off against each other. But things don't go very well for Talky, because everyone realized, like, oh yeah, Yusa's just like hitting the shuttlecock diagonally, and he's tired from having a really competitive match against Haruyo. So this has got to be a really taxing strategy for him. Haru, I believe, says, "You're one cheeky guy." Everyone tries to cheer on Talky, who does try and battle back, but it gets to a point eventually where Talky, has to like dive to try and return a smash, and while he reaches it, it just bounces off the underside of the net, and he loses the match. 21-18 and 21-16, he was not able to win either game. He lost his straight games.
Relatively close, though. I think 21-16 is also what his brother lost a game at, but 18-21 is pretty close.
Yeah, not a rout, but unfortunately, Talky did not really, get to show his best because he was a tired boy by this point.
He's excited because his previous match, I think, was supposed to also be a semifinal. I don't think the Yusa brothers match was a semifinal, so
probably. It seems like Yusa came into the finals very fresh, is the implication. Everyone does say they're like, "Oh man, Inamata, he did do a good job." Yusa, won the whole tournament, and so they both get to go to the nationals. After their match, Yusa says to Talky, "Hey, that match you had earlier, I want to have one like that too." Neat.
Yeah, very cool that he's like acknowledging like that looked like a sick fucking match. I want to have one like that.
In the bleachers, Shinatsu tells Karen that she's like, I'm gonna. She's like, yeah, okay, see you soon.
Yeah, later.
And also in the bleachers, some of Akari's friends go, Did Shinatsu senpai say Talky earlier? Was she cheering specifically for him? You heard her, right, Akari? And Akari says, maybe she said Nikkei, like the goddess of victory. What? Everyone's like, what are you talking about? Chinatsu goes to find Talky, but just as she finds him in the backstage area, she sees that he's talking to Haru. And Haru's like, yeah, how was Yusa? He's like, oh, he was strong. And then they just start talking about their game a little bit. Oh yeah, when we were tied at 8, that was a sweet shot. The cross-court net shot? Yeah. And it was really close, but you've gotten better. And Haru says, and now you know what to work on for nationals. And Talky, is quiet for a second, and Shinatsu thinks about this, and again, we're just remembering all these times that Haru has had with Talky. And then Talky says, yeah, that last shot and your other shots, I'm sorry. And Haru's like, are you apologizing for losing, or are you apologizing for winning against me? And so Haru reaches forward, gives him a flick in the forehead.
Oh, that's where the chapter title comes from. This makes more sense.
Yes, and he says, don't think about unnecessary things. Have confidence in yourself so you won't lose to anyone. Gives him a big old smile, being a good old senpai.
This is a great chapter for Haru, who is going to be in such an interesting place right now. This is one of those characters that I'm going to think about a lot when I think about Blue Box, because this is just a really compelling character who we got to see his whole thing, and now we get to see him just be a good senpai. Basically, he's like, I can't be upset or anything like that. This kid needs motivation, and I'm gonna give it to him. He should have confidence. He won. This is a good good thing for you, Talky. This means a lot of potential victories in your future. This is good for you.
Absolutely. It's it kind of makes sense, I think, that we don't linger on the tournament any longer, because we did get to the important plot beat that happens here. So we will see how things go in the future for Talky as his badminton journey continues, and Haru's does not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it for Blue Box for now.
Unless he kills Yusa and wears his skin and uses that to compete, which some might argue against the spirit of the series a little bit. But I think there's actually a lot of potential to this. If we could kind of follow this a little bit, Leatherface is also kind of a sports icon when you think about it. Are chainsaws not a sport, Nicholas?
It's going to be interesting to see how Haruto will react to his brother suddenly being sounding different, being taller, smelling weird.
No, he's just all about that rivalry stuff. He's like,
That's right.
No, my brother never comes home after the tournaments. He only shows up for the tournaments.
Every time that Haru has to show up for a scene, he's like, "Oh, sorry, everybody, he's just covered in blood and sweat."
Yeah, he has to do like the old swapper, like, I haven't seen Haru and Yusa at the same time in a while. So he's like meat puppeting on the Yusa skin. Hey guys, good to see ya. Hand falls off. Don't worry, that happens all the time.
God. Anyway.
Chainsaw.
That might be
this is a great segue into Chainsaw Man, which is about a body being chopped up into pieces.
Chainsaw Man, chapter 161, Chainsaw Man puzzle. That's right. It's the jigsaw puzzle you all been waiting for, everybody. The merchandise deal coming in. All right. So the surgeons that we saw several chapters ago chopping off Denji body parts, they're gonna do they're gonna take a break. One of them says like, "Oh, we're almost wrapped up here. It sounds like there were intruders, so should we take 5?"
Very, very funny line. I do like that. Does sound like they're intruders, so take 5, everybody. Like very casually.
Door bursts open. Samurai shouts out, "Get on the ground if you want to live. Run and I'll cut you to pieces." It's like, all right, fair enough. The same surgeon goes, "Oh dear." In that tone, I should say, that no exclamation point, just full on flat, "Oh dear." Fami realizes the Chainsaw Man should be in this room, and Yoru demands that the doctors tell them where Chainsaw Man is. So the head surgeon says, "What a disaster. Fine. The Chainsaw Man boxes are stacked over there." And then he goes, "Wait a second. You guys knocked those over when you came in?" More upset about them knocking over all the boxes than the fact that there are deadly intruders in the room with them. Yeah. And Yoru says, like, "What do you mean Chainsaw Man boxes?" "Yes, Chainsaw Man boxes. We dismembered him and boxed up the pieces. And right after we sorted those two. Intruders or no, I demand an apology." And one of the Devil Hunter Club members does apologize.
So yeah, whatever one is supposed to be like Kobeni's sibling.
Yeah. Yoru kicks one of the boxes, a hand comes out, and they go, "Whoa, it's a hand!" Yep.
These kids are so over their heads at this point.
Yoru tells everyone, "I order you to connect his body parts." The president says, "Why should we?" Yoru says, "Because if you can't obey me, you die. Now move it." So they start unboxing body parts and putting Denji back together. From Parker Brothers. It's the Denji puzzle. Yay!
Yeah. Yep. You can get this at your local store, Toys R Us, which I don't think exists anymore, or KB Toys, which definitely does not exist anymore.
One of them finds the heart, which Yoru says, "Okay, that's good, because if we stick his body back together, then we can start the engine and then he'll be fine, so do it." The surgeon looks at Samurai, the Nail Devil, and Yoru and says, "Aren't you three going to help?" And Yoru's like, "I'm wounded. Hey, you help them." And Samurai says, "Chores are for kids, and don't forget, I spared your lives." All right. Fair enough.
No, say it, Nick.
The eye patch member of the Devil Hunter Club says, "I found his wiener." Will his wiener stick back on too? And Samurai immediately says, "Shove it up his ass."
This is one of the funniest moments that this guy really does just fucking hate him. He's like, "Oh, it'll be funny, shove his dick up his ass." Like, everyone in this world are fucking children.
Yoru says, no, do not do that. Put every piece where it's supposed to be. I want Chainsaw Man in perfect condition when I fight him, or else my victory will be meaningless.
You gotta make sure his dick is where it's supposed to be. Otherwise, that's a huge
It's very
advantage.
important to me.
Yeah, it's a huge disadvantage for him when he fights.
Look, it's very important to me that Chainsaw Man's dick is where it belongs.
Hey, it is worth noting that Asa does not show back up in this scene.
Not in this scene, no.
Yes. In that moment, yeah, I should say. She doesn't interrupt to be like, well, let me look at it. Nope. Yeah. You can even argue their relationship is chaste.
Mm-hmm, possibly. Denji might not like that. Samurai is like, oh, can't you take a joke? You must have no game. Interesting choice of words. Yoru says, and this is amazing, I don't need game. Love is worthless. It just makes you act foolishly. Yeah. And Nail Devil accuses her of not knowing anything about love. And she's like, I know everything about love. Shut up. So, yeah, she's very mature.
Yeah. Very.
And then lastly, Wimpy, member of the Devil Hunter Club, finds Denji's head. And he sees like, oh my god, it's his human form. And the president looks at it and goes, is this really Chainsaw Man's head? So the head surgeon has decided that he is on his break because he's gotten coffee.
This dude legit was like, I'm taking 5.
They're like, is this really Chainsaw Man's head? Yep. No doubt about it.
Like, all you really wish that could be added was like that the coffee cup had some like shitty like fucking like corporate thing, like I'm thinking about the beach or something like that on there.
So yours like, who the hell cares what his human face looks like? Just attach his head. But the president looks at her and says, Asamitaka, isn't this your boyfriend? And tilts the box so that we can see Denji's disembodied, lifeless head blearily staring out at her. And Yoru shifts into Mitaka, who, of course, looks on in shock. For a brief moment, before the door is kicked in. The other door! They burst through a different door!
Yeah. I love it if the doctor was like, I guess we just don't need doors in this surgery environment. It's a medical environment, but fuck it, I guess whatever.
Everyone looks up. The Nail Devil goes, oh snap. And it's the eye patch guy from before who proclaims, this is an order. Kill them all.
It is wild that there are at least 3 characters in this scene all with eye patches.
Yeah. And speaking of eye patches, it's Quan Chi, and she is not on their side. So,
Yeah, not looking great. Quan Chi kind of confirmed very good at killing people. So,
very good at killing people.
We're going to see what has to happen there, but cool little extra wrinkle to add. And just a funny chapter. Not a ton to honestly, like, pull from and talk about it. It's a big reveal, I guess, that
Mitaka now knows that Denji is Asa now knows that Denji is Chainsaw Man.
Yeah. So, a little bit of stuff there, but I don't know, just felt like this was like a cool, easy chapter with some good jokes in it.
Yeah, so a very funny nameless character, as it turns out.
Yep.
All right. Chapter number 104 of Kaiju number 8. So Mina is still in the weird internal world.
She's in
of
Kaiju
number
space.
9, trying to process her. And she is in her little kid guise, wandering around with a gun. But Kaiju number 9 approaches her and says, no one has ever escaped. And he transitions into Hoshina and says, no matter the era, and then morphs again to seemingly one of Hoshina's ancestors, because he looks kind of like Hoshina. He's got samurai armor on. He says, no matter how strong, and then transitions into someone in like old, like priest garb of some kind, and says, not a single person in history. Now come. And he transitions back into Kaiju number 9, but with a bunch of human faces sticking out of him. Come over to our side. And there's a bunch of weird little gremlin kaiju that are starting to swarm up Mina's leg. She shoots them off, but a big mouth comes and chomps onto her arm. She shoots it with another gun, and she just starts getting swarmed by the things. She's trying to run away, trying to shoot her way through, but she just keeps on getting attacked and attacked and attacked and attacked until they're just swarming all over her, biting into all of her limbs. And she realizes, like, what is this? How many of them are there? There's 10, 20. No, there's hundreds of kaiju inside of number 9. And she's just this little kid having all these weird, horrible monstrosities swarming around her. She manages to get one arm free and starts firing away into them. And she says, I got my arm free, and now I've got to make my escape. But the big, terrifying mouth with the giant eyes everywhere just descends on her and swallows her whole. And she is falling into an abyss, and her body is starting to fade away. And she thinks, I can't win. Even though Bako is risking his life to save mine, even though my subordinates are all fighting like their lives depend on it, even though the people are holding out because of their faith in me, even though I promised Kafka that I would be waiting for him, my body won't respond anymore. I can feel myself fading away. And even like the definition of her face is starting to go as she thinks this. Her limbs are all starting to dissolve away as she falls into this endless abyss inside this inner kaiju stomach thing. And then she starts to get really down on herself. She says of Kafka, whenever I was by your side, I felt like I was invincible, like I could take down any kaiju that came our way. And I tried my best on my own, but I wasn't good enough. I failed at being vice captain of the Kafka Corps. I'm scared. And then just as she's saying, I'm scared of being all alone, Kafka, she turns and looks, and she sees a little kid Kafka there. And she immediately realizes, because, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Wait, is it number 9 again doing this? But as she looks at it, Kafka turns to look at her and says, don't worry, Mina. And she realizes, no, it's not number 9. And Kafka reaches out to her and says, I'm right by your side. And as Mina looks at him, in her eyes, she has a vision of the two of them as agents of the Kaiju Defense Force standing together. And we finally cut outside of the inner world, where Kaiju number 9's arm and the pod that was extending from it have been ripped off. Bako's not doing good, but he's alive. Good kitty.
Yep.
And number 9 just says, you? How are you able to make it here? And Kafka has appeared. He has ripped Mina free from the pod and is holding her in his arms and looking back. Not looking very happy at Kaiju number 9. That's where we end the chapter.
Yeah, this is cool. I wish he had said, you know, like, in my mind, he's like, how did you get here? Like 6 chapters worth of characters showing up and leading the way. Yeah, like it took a lot, but he was able to get here. Cool, dig it, satisfying. This is sort of the Kaiju number 8 sort of classic. We're gonna do a trope. And it's not new, but it's done well. So
it's done well.
Yeah, you're okay with it.
2 different chapters this week, Quinn, of internal world where a heroic character's arms get disintegrated away.
Yes.
Crazy. Also, Kaiju number 9 had an arm ripped off in this chapter. Lots of arms this week.
Yeah.
It's good eating for that.
Yeah, very good eating for old Nicholas Freeman and the Bleach Memorial Award for the end of the year.
That's right. I will say that it does seem as though there may be some ongoing consequences from Mina nearly being, eaten, because there are weird things that are still like surrounding her limbs. even after Kafka has saved her.
Uh,
Might be a way to potentially have her, not be the top dog in the defense force for a little while, or maybe she's just, not able to do it. That'd suck.
I will wait to see if that is more than just like the scene of him rescuing her kind of stuff.
Right.
That like there's still like stuff surrounding her body and limbs and stuff. Because I would be kind of surprised if they tried to like write her out. Like this isn't fucking Gojo. Like you don't need to be like, all right, well, oops, we made this person too powerful. Like they kind of gave her a pretty clear weakness and that she can't do hand to hand whatsoever. So hopefully that's just not the direction they're gonna go.
Yeah, it would suck if we had to be like, and you have to wait even longer for her and Kafka to get to fight together.
It's gonna happen the last chapter of this fucking series after 8 years. They're gonna be like, and now together, and they're gonna punch and shoot something at the same time. And they're like, well, that was that. Credits.
I'm glad we came across that. So that one kaiju had to be shot from a long distance and punched from up close at the same time.
Yeah. Credits roll. Kids in America start playing. We're like, that doesn't make sense. They're very clearly in Japan.
Very Japanese. We got a kind of mini chapter from Spy Family, short mission 12. It's really just kind of a look at the precursor to the dance that we just got finished up with. And we actually see the scene of Becky and Anya going dress shopping together. I do like some of the little notes here that they have, when when Becky turns to Martha and is like, what do you think? Oh, that's right. You don't care about clothes and stuff. And Martha's like, I'll have you know that I did used to fret over what dress to wear. Did you have a boyfriend? And she just kind of chuckles and doesn't say anything. Yeah. I do like this whole thing of Martha's lived a whole ass life that Becky just doesn't know about.
Yeah,
and we don't know about it yet either.
Her entire life, Martha has exclusively just been her driver butler lady. So it makes sense for a kid to just be like, wait.
You do other stuff?
You were young once and had a life?
Anya does try on some other dresses that she didn't end up going with. We find out that the reason she went with the black dress she wore for the dance was because it looks like the one Mama wears to murder people.
Great
Good
reason.
Anya.
Yep.
And she does pick that one out. Even though it's one of the ones that's off the rack, it still costs $5,000. Which, of course, Lloyd is like, are you kidding me? Come on. But no. All right, fine. We're going to make this plan work. This is going to be worth it. And, of course, Anya is a little klutz, is not so good at dancing. And so Lloyd's really frustrated with it and wants to give up. And Anya says, I don't want to give up. I want to practice till I get it right. Because she wants plan B to succeed, of course. So Lloyd's like, all right, we'll keep on trying. And then there's also a scene of them at school before the dance where Anya is, wobbly legged because she's been practicing all the time trying to get better at dancing. Damien and his friends come by, make fun of her because she's probably shit at dancing and stuff. And they're like, she's totally poor too. She probably ate eraser shavings and stuff. You want to eat this pencil too? And then when Anya gets home, Lloyd says, you want to practice for dance? No, I don't want to anymore. Boys suck.
Very cute. Very adorable.
Cute little kids chapter. Yeah, nice.
All right, Nick, let's talk about Eden Zero, Chapter 282, The Flames of Homura. So, Nick,
yes.
I said at the end of last chapter that this could be the lead to maybe one of the better conflicts in Eden Zero because Homura was defeated. This was an opportunity for Valkyrie to get involved and maybe do a co-op fight and build this character up because somebody was defeated. A character now has an actual build. It was good stuff. I take all of that back. So we open this chapter. Homura has been defeated. She, de-overdrives, whatever you call it. And of course, if you have forgotten...
She's naked.
Before she was overdriving and got clothes, she was naked. So she is now naked with presumably an extremely vicious scar across her stomach because she was basically what looks like killed here. But we'll see that it's a little different.
The amount of blood that's sprayed on the floor would seem to indicate she has lost multiple liters of blood. She does not act like it. And she does not act like she has a gaping wound in her stomach.
Yeah. She starts thinking to herself, oh, I have a bad wound. Am I going to die? But I don't care about dying. I only care about my crew being safe. Actually, no, I don't want to die. I want to live. So she starts getting up, which, again, Hiro wants like graphic violence, but he doesn't ever want his characters to not be sexy. So despite the fact that Homura is nude and has a giant grisly wound in her fucking like stomach or like abdomen area, we'll never see anything to look like that. This chapter has to use speech bubbles and sound effects so precisely to cover everything up so as not to be unattractive, quote unquote. So Homura thinks to herself, it doesn't matter how strong this woman's ether power is. If she wants to die, then as one who wants to live, I cannot lose to her. Stupid thing. Whatever. It would be fine enough reasoning in a vacuum. It is dumb here. Valkyrie's like, give up. I actually didn't try to kill you. I basically almost killed you, but I didn't as a sign of respect. Which is like, isn't your plan to blow up the ship? She's gonna die anyway. What was the like? What's Homura tries to attack her, and she's like, "All right, fine. I will show you my 100 arms." And she reveals that her sword can turn into a bunch of different weapons. Because she is the ultimate warrior, which makes sense. She fights with everything, so her weapon turns into a hammer and ninja stars.
If there's anything you associate the ultimate warrior with, it's versatile offense.
Yes, famously. So she turns it into a whole bunch of these different weapons, and Homura's like, I can do that too! And she changes her ether sword into a bow and arrow, and the two of them launch arrows at each other that explode. And then they have a claw fight, because this is, both of them can do this now, and they're going for it. And Valkyrie, Lady Freya is just like, this is ridiculous. My ether power level is 100 times more than her. And Homura's like, no, ether gear power isn't what matters. The sum of one's combat ability is measured by their heart, their technique, and their body. Your body, by the way, has a giant gaping wound in it.
She just shouts heart.
Yeah, she shouts heart. She goes through this whole thing about how each part plays into the whole heart. It makes no sense for one who wishes to live to be beaten by one who wishes to die. Technique. The warrior maid style can produce every kind of attack. And body, a well-trained body, yields to nothing. And in this, we get a profile shot of Homura. Where we do get to this is the most we get to see of like the actual, like what would be considered graphic, and there is no wound in her. She just fell into red paint, basically.
There is no fresh blood coming out of her, even though she is moving strenuously with a stomach wound.
Yeah. So Lady Freya's like, this is impossible. Homura's like, I am Homura and I am Valkyrie, the swords of Eden. And we start getting a flashback to Valkyrie talking to a young Homura. And she's like, yes, an ultimate secret attack, a fire attack. Your name means blaze, so it's perfect from you. But this move comes at a price. If you master it, you will develop a weakness towards fire and heat. And she's like, well, that's a strange, weird, random weakness. And she's like, well, it'll be because you have a great fire in your belly. And she's like, so does that mean you're weak to fire? And Valkyrie's like, no, I've never learned this technique. I just know how it works, and you have it. So Homura has decided now is the time to unleash this flame. And she attacks. Ultimate Maid Warrior secret attack. A sword that's on fire. And she just cuts Lady Freya in half, and she fucking explodes, and Homura's like, oh, I feel cold. That's the end of the chapter. Nick, so people have pointed out that this has technically been teased It varies.
Technically.
Yeah, they're like 2 or 3 times in the course of this series when Homura has been in a location that's a little warm. She notes being very hot, where everyone else is like, this isn't actually that bad. So the payoff for this, Nick, finally, this is like Vegapunk showing up. Like, finally, the long-awaited answer. Why does Homura sometimes get hotter than everyone else?
Yeah, it kind of became her running gag after Hiro got tired of having her "I always speak my mind" thing just be her main character trait. That just kind of like has faded with time, and instead he was like, "Oh, she gets hot really easily." That's that. So she's miserable in like hot springs and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, it's his training or whatever." Now, I understand that this whole thing is stupid. I will, for a moment, choose to try and focus on the positives.
Okay.
First off, I do think that one toothpaste spread of her actually striking with the technique looks cool. Just ignoring all the context of it. She it looks cool when she's swinging her big blazing sword thing. I like the idea of this, technique being something that only Homura has. That like Valkyrie was like, this is something that even I have not done because it is a technique that I believe that you should have. It's just for you. It's not for me. It's like, I like the idea behind that. I think that the conversation goes by way too quickly and is way too ham-fisted for what it is trying to accomplish by like the idea of that.
Yes.
I also am glad that instead of going for, well, Valkyrie's a stronger, important character than Homura, the more established character, so I'm gonna go fight her instead. It's like, no, Homura gets to have a win. Thank you for that. Mashima Hiro, please accept this gift for doing the bare minimum. There you go.
It's a bear. I get it.
The bare minimum. There you go, buddy. It's not a naked woman in bondage. Oh, you don't want it? Okay.
Yeah. He's like, could that bear be tied up and maybe be a Barbie doll?
No, it comes as is.
Okay.
That's it.
So I disagree with all of that.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I disagree. I just think this is dumb. This is one of those things where I'm like, I guess, like, if I squint and sort of remember it, it is fair. Like, I don't like this series, so I don't really keep track of, like, the details, but I never really thought that Homura sometimes finding things hotter than everybody else was, like, a detail to really, like, stick in my brain. Like, I wonder if this will be relevant later. Maybe if I had thought about it, but like, oh, well, what does the name Homura mean? And maybe it, like, makes more sense there. I still think that just Hiro moves too fast and there's too many things going on. I think a chapter where she did fight Valkyrie and Valkyrie couldn't beat her and Homura has to, like, would have been great. Like, I think just give this more time because, like, the character of Lady Freya existed entirely in, like, one chapter. She was like, here's my backstory. And she doesn't have anything. And this, she's just like, oh, I'm actually up against the wall now. And it's also this weird thing that we have, like, this established power-up called Overdrive, which is, like, sometimes you go to the next level, and that's where you're at your absolute strongest. And Homura's like, actually, I don't need that to win.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, actually, I could have beaten you from the very beginning. So, I don't know. It's just kind of whatever.
I wonder if, at some point, Hiro had this idea for Homura's climactic battle, and his original idea was that it would have to do with the original running gag, which was, oh, she speaks her mind all the time. But he couldn't figure out a way to do that. So instead he was like, Homura means fire. It means flame. So what if she has a fire thing? Okay. What if she's uncomfortable when it's hot because she's burning internally and then she unleashes a fire thing? There we go. That's easy. And instead of having a thing where it's like, having to come up with like an opponent where she had to, like her open-mindedness was like seemingly a detriment to her, but then it turned out to actually be a strength. It was like, nah, it's too complicated and
how do I do that? Yeah, there's too much thinking in here, not enough titties. Like, what am I gonna do with this?
She gets hot easily. Firepower. Boom. And then I can draw her in bads more.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
I mean, look, so there's this thing that just exists with Hero's work where he just kind of like repurposes the things he thinks are cool. Like it's the reason why like sword fighters have been so common in his series, and characters with like fire powers have been so common. Like he just has shit he likes, so he uses them again and again. Which, you know, fucking, I don't care this much about this series. Let's talk about green greens. I was about to go in this whole thing, and I was like, we're wasting time. I could be talking about green greens.
Green greens. Chapter 17. If anyone ever looks at you the way that Oga is looking at that ball, be concerned because they are planning to assassinate you.
Be excited because, you know, find someone who looks at you the same way Oga looks at a putt she needs to make.
Chapter 17 in Nadeshiko. So everyone else is, observing like, hey, Oga's like really focused on this shot. And Haku just kind of reminds everyone like, okay, I got a birdie. If Oga can make this shot, she'll get an eagle. But this is a really difficult shot. It's like something that even a pro would only have like a 1 in 20 chance of getting. Or Oliver establishes that. And Haku's like, oh, is that really that good? And Oliver also starts to think like, Oga's way too tense. What's happened in the years since we last saw each other in Nadeshiko? And Oga's just thinking like, I'm gonna sink it. I'm gonna sink it. I'm gonna sink this end. As she swings her club, we get a flashback to when Oga and Oliver first met each other. Look at him in his stupid little clothes. So he's got a plaid vest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, fuck him for wearing a vest, little shithead.
So it turns out they knew each other because Oga's mother was a professional golfer who would travel the world with her caddy, Jessica, Oliver's mother. Just like Jessica, Oliver is aiming to become an American pro. But, and so they would also play golf with their moms on outings and stuff. But Oga would, kind of suck at putting. Oliver would tell her, you really suck at putting. It
seems cruel to make a child. I know they're like professional golfers, but it seems cruel to make a child do an adult golf course. Like, take them to putt first or something, right?
And so, they would go playing golf together, and at night they would all eat together, and Oga's like, yeah, Oliver was like a brother to me. It was fun. Not so much the golf part. What I truly enjoyed was the time I got to spend with my mom. And sometime after that, Sakurako, her mother, got divorced from her father when Oga was just 10 years old. Because, her mother was this famous golfer who would travel the world all the time, spent most of the year abroad. And when Sakurako asked Oga, hey, do you want to come to the States with me? She opted to stay in Japan instead. And so Sakurako was like, okay, I understand. I love you. And I'm sorry. You can come and see me anytime. And Oga thought, like, I didn't plan on going. I thought I would just get in her way. Because even now, she's still out there, fighting with everything she's got. But I was happy. And her father didn't like her playing golf. Understandable.
It is very funny because, like, they say in, like, the next panel, she's like, I had to, like, secretly play golf in secret. And it's, like, it's getting to, like, the Dirty Dancing levels of, like, no one will golf in my household. It's like, it's just a very adorable thing for it to be like, he's like, were you out golfing last night? You came home real late. And she's like, no, Dad, I was at a party drinking. He's like, you better have been if I find out you were golfing.
You better not be dating any golfers. That's all I'll say. Oga decided to then start living with her grandmother when her dad got remarried. So that's why she's in her current living conditions. And it does seem like she has got a good relationship with her grandma, so that's nice at least.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to like her. That's good.
Yeah. She kind of got the same offer that Haku did then. was just told because she was visiting the driving range, like, hey, why don't you work here part time? Because then you can play for free. And
I
she was like,
imagine that's what you say to any young kid who comes to the driving range, right? Like there can't
you want
be.
to work here?
Yeah, like I can't imagine you're getting that much of an influx of
Hmm.
like young blood that you're just like, shit, you can work nights, can't you?
Right. And it's not like a bunch of adults are going to be clamoring for a part time job. So, like, hey,
Yeah,
if this kid is in this driving range where kids don't go, I might as well ask them if they want to do this.
exactly.
So, and then, it goes just like, I can use the range as much as I want. I can practice as much as I want. So then she's, started to have a little bit more money that she could spend on golf tournaments. And so, she's like, working on all the math and stuff. And it's like, oh, I've got to like buy balls. I've got to buy gloves. And she's like, I spent everything I earned on golf because competing is expensive.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell my mom about it because I knew that she would send money for me. Just wanted to do it on her own. And she wound up, winning a tournament. She won the Kanto Girls Golf Championship, as we've, heard previously. Like, we heard that in, like, chapter 1.
Like the second best region when you think about it, Nick. It's a good region. You can get Magnemites there. Fuck yeah. That rules. Does Magnemite not rule, Nick?
Yeah, it does rule. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Damn straight. We stand
Anyway.
non-binary queens in this household, Nick. All right.
Anyway, so everyone started to realize, like, holy shit, that girl, like, she's got a big future in golf, but was just focused on, I need more experience. I'm going to keep on playing matches. And then she got a message from Jessica, Oliver's mother, just saying, like, hey, I heard about your achievements all the way out here in the US. I got so excited, so I started writing this email to you immediately. I'm not working for your mom as her caddy anymore. I'm a golf instructor at this new university, and they've only got a few achievements to their name, but they're putting in this effort, blah blah blah. And like it just kind of like fades out until we get to a point that she focused in on, which was, why don't you come out to the States too? Like, look, you're Sakurako's daughter. I'm sure you could get a scholarship out here. And Oga, started to type out a reply, and she was like, I plan to travel to the States eventually, but I'm not ready yet. I want to make it myself with my own abilities. When the time comes, I'll write again. Please don't tell my mom.
Yeah.
And after that, she was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a pro. I'm going to become a pro. And I'm going to live in the same world as my mom. Not live with my mom, live in the same world as my mom. And we cut to the present, where she has just sunk that eagle putt. And holy shit,
she looks so fucking awesome. I had to like zoom in because I was like, did she close her eyes? No, her pupils are just gone. That is how fucking hyped she is to sink this eagle.
She sinks it. Toto gives her a round of applause. Oliver's like, hey, nice eagle. Your putting's improved. And then Haku just says, nice eagle. And then Oga's like, I can't believe I'm competing against you. I never would have imagined it. I've made up my mind. I'm going to win next week's tourney, and I'm going to go to the States. And, Haku is, taken a little bit aback by that, but she goes on to say, I know more than anyone. I've got a lot to learn, but I still want to take on this challenge. After all, my mom, and forget, I'm just talking to myself. And, yeah, she's like, hey, come on, it's not a big deal. But Haku's like, it's a big deal.
He's like, this
because,
is...
it's a big deal. I'm going to cheer you on no matter what you say. Look, this might be the first and last time, but I'm glad I got to play golf with you, Oga.
Oh, that's so
And
sweet.
I even got to do I got to do a birdie in front of you. Yeah, it was my goal today. What kind of goal is that? I mean, I guess kind of like the birdie that I did was kind of like, I didn't have a great approach, and it was kind of dumb luck. But that's the fun part of golf. And Oga says, come on, Misaki. There's no dumb luck in golf. That was a splendid birdie.
Great moment.
And she's even like, man, I think you're like rubbing off on me in a bad way. I can't believe that I did something so reckless before. But Haku's like all embarrassed. He's like lowering his cap over his eyes and stuff. We get narration that says, in golf, you can't directly affect your opponent's shots. But by doing something together, we can still have an effect on each other. And Haku vows, I'm going to get even better, Oga. And next time, I'll take a hole with my own skill. All right, work on your phrasing when you're coming at golf, but I get your point. And yeah, they're continuing to play. It seems like I don't know if we're gonna follow this round of golf any further at this point.
It would be wild because who knows how long the series is going to continue. But imagine if we do just stick with this through all 18 holes, and then they're like, "Series over, guys." Like. That was it. You kind of heard what everyone was planning to do, so like they're out of here.
This is a really nice chapter. I love that we just like get fully invested in Oga's journey for this little stretch of it. She comes to a decision in this chapter, and it seems that there might be a parting of the ways, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Just because one person gets a scholarship doesn't mean that only one person gets a scholarship, for example. Something else could happen.
It's very, very true. Great chapter. This is a really, really strong chapter. That 2-page spread is absolutely phenomenal. I love how fucking just cool Oga looks in it. And this all just worked really, really well. This rivalry continues to kind of be one of the better ones in Jump right now, where I'm like, every week kind of compelled to see what's going to push these characters a little bit more forward.
Yep. All right, Quinn. New Exorcist, chapter 44, Stepsister. Couple of snotty-nosed, in one case literally, kids approach the level 4 spirit, who's in a human guise and wearing a fancy schmancy pinstripe suit. And he gives one of them a little head rub and then goes inside. And he is welcomed inside this restaurant where a bunch of people are all dining together. They refer to him as Yagi. And they're like, oh, hey, you got here. And he says, you're all underdressed. Wear what you want still means business attire, you know.
Which is weird because we could see a couple of them from this angle. One of them is wearing a suit. Yeah, like 3 of them are wearing, like 2 of them are wearing suits. One of them has at least a tie and like a button-down shirt. Like the 2 in the foreground, yeah, they're wearing kind of casual attire. But this does feel like he's singling a couple people out who did stick to the memo.
Yes. Wearing ties and stuff, jeez. Also, he objects to being called Yagi because his name is Toshiyuki Nishiya. I don't know where you get Yagi from that, but whatever. Anyhow, so they're like, yeah, take a seat. And he says, if I may continue to practice conversation like a human, I would like to thank everyone for gathering here today. I am so happy to see you all again, my dear level 4 monsters. Little weird that he calls them monsters, but whatever.
It's in that same way, like you could sometimes when you're a part of the group, it's okay to use the slurs for that group because it's like a casual thing.
Maybe.
He's like, yeah, we're all monsters here. And somebody's like, I don't know if we should be empowering that word right now. That doesn't feel like the right environment. He's like, yeah, fuck you. Put on a tie. They're like, I'm wearing a tie. And he's like, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you, I can't actually see anything.
I just assumed you were all wearing skivvies.
Yeah, I thought all of us monsters had no eyes. I thought it was just a thing. Turns out it's just me. I just made an assumption you all would dress poorly.
Feels like you're actually using monsters because you've got like some, like internalized self-hatred about our group. That's exactly what a monster would say. Oh, no, I'm feeling about it. I don't know if you should be our leader anymore.
Yeah.
It's a bad vibe.
Is he their leader? This is truly a faction that I understand almost nothing about. I don't think I'm supposed to understand a lot because it's still
Probably
pretty early on. Yeah. But yeah, I don't really know if he's the leader or what.
He says he has called them all here to discuss the Raise, a meeting to discuss our goals, the complete manifestation of the Hyo. and the prevention of news resurrection. Actually, I think he refers to a person named Raise. I think that's like a person, but it's crammed into these two tiny panels, and you don't see a face. So I guess that's a new character as well. Anyway, Gakuro wakes up after he reflects on the memory of saying like, "I will exterminate you," and Nishiya just going in response.
Damn it! I'm trying to look cool, but I wet my bed again! Grrr!
Gakuro clenches his fist. Oh, I'll get you!
Ow! I hurt my fingies!
Oh, I gotta wear a cast now. Goes to school. Shitatsu goes, "Don't leave for school all by yourself," and smacks him with her bag.
Boom. Yep. Got him.
Yep. And he's like, "What? Don't you hate going to school by yourself? What? Oh, and you didn't come to breakfast. What? We ate breakfast in your room yesterday, so obviously we should eat in my room today. Is that some new trend? Ugh, your collar's crooked. Oh, thank you. I'm only mildly competent at dressing myself. Why are you being nice?
I usually just trip into my clothes enough times that I can go outside. It takes a long time to get those buttons.
Between that and clenching my hand too hard, I'm lucky if I'm not in a full body cast by the end of breakfast.
They say my bones are actually more akin to paper mache.
Gakuro starts to ask Yutatsu why she's being nice, but they get cut off by some other people who like are greeting her and are like, "Hey, how are you?" and stuff. And, "Oh, do you know those people?" Say, "Hi, how are you? How are you? How are you?" She's immediately the most popular person in school.
Everyone loves her. She's so cool.
And so Gakuro's like, "Who are these people? How do they know you? Are they also exorcists?" And she's like, "Nah, they're just friends I made yesterday." Friends you made yesterday?
Wait a minute. You can make friends?
What?
How do I make friends?
They get to school. There's love letters in her shoe locker, like 5 of them. And she's gonna be like, "Oh." And there are people like, "Oh my God, you're so popular. Are you gonna respond or anything?" She's like, "No." Then like they go into class and our teacher's being weird. He's like, "I'm 16 on the inside, so seat number 16, you answer this question." And when she doesn't know the answer, instead, Tomosoda stands up and she's like, I know the answer, and I'm also 16 years old, so I can answer. And then someone else is like, "I'm Spartacus."
Yeah,
I'm Spartacus.
It's straight up like, "I'm 16 too, and I am too." Like, most of the class gonna be 16.
Most of you are gonna be 16, yes. And it's like, "All right, let's come up with an answer together." And then it's like, "Oh, look at her, go into class and being popular and good at sports and stuff." And I forget his name. Zeto?
Zenzo,
whatever.
Come on.
He's like, "Your
how
sister's
could you
amazing."
forget it?
Right, very easily. And someone's like, "Oh, I'm so jealous. And you get to see another side of her at home, don't you? Like her telling you off or kicking you around. She's not related to you by blood."
Yeah, I was like, those felt like maybe a clue about what you like as a person.
Bit. You like tsunderes, or don't you? Yeah.
He likes a dominating woman.
Yeah. Anyway, Zeno's like, "Hey, you should try to be a little more happy that she's popular and stuff, because it's been years since you saw her, right?" And Gakuro goes to bed, and he's like, "Wow, Shitatsu's amazing. She used to think herself above everyone and everything, but now she's so considerate, and everyone loves her. I feel like I've lost somehow. This is actually about me and my own insecurities."
Oh, Zeno, sorry. Yeah, I do like that. He's like, "Actually, this is about my problems, how this relates to me, and not just about her own character growth that I, as her fucking brother, should be proud of."
And he's like, "Oh, now I'm having a flashback to when she was upset at me. I know I have to face her properly. I can start with eating breakfast in Shitatsu's room in the morning." And then you realize that, she wanted to come to bed with him and stuff. And
crazy.
When he Phrase. No. That's what happens. So he just like realizes that she is like kind of crept into bed and is like, like sleeping on the edge of it. And then when he realizes this, he goes, ah! Because, Gakuro is a normal human being. He's just a regular everyday guy that doesn't have weird personality issues at all.
I was like, this is almost a normal thing to do, except like the way he particularly screams is like I'd be like, look, if I was like in this situation and my sibling also just like crammed themselves into my bed, I'd be like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, what's up with this? But the idea that he screams in abject terror is like, come on, my guy. You gotta have a better way to respond to things than screaming.
I feel like the only justifiable reason he would have for reacting this way is if he had actually internalized all the comments that people have made about how it's like, oh, it's so hot that you've got a sister not related to you by blood. If he internalized that and was like, this is actually kind of weird that everyone keeps talking about how sexy the situation is, and then when it starts to happen, he's like, oh no!
Well,
that's like the only good one.
So, like, here's actually a thing that could have been interesting, because I established earlier on he is thinking a lot about that level 4. When he wakes up, he'll wake up like tense. So the idea, because the first thing he says when he shoots up is, who are you? So the idea that he could have been like panicked and thinking that level 4 was coming at him could have been a thing. But we just established the thing he is thinking about is Shitatsu. Like, he is not thinking about that dude right now.
All you gotta do is have a couple of panels in between where he's thinking about Shitatsu and when she shows up, and instead have it be that, he has that in the nightmare again. That's it. And then I guess that's what you're supposed to think. But it's just bah. Anyway, Shitatsu says, like, I just want to sleep here. You got a problem with that? And there's just kind of like awkward silence for a little bit. And then actually she says, does your arm still hurt? No,
There is something cute, which is she is now under the covers and on the pillow, and he is just slowly shuffled to the side. This mattress also is growing, essentially. So there is something a little cute. I almost think it could have been funny to show. Do you think she just pushes him until she reaches that point, or he intentionally does it, and he is just such a weird little freak, he always sleeps exactly like this, even in a situation where he has like no pillow, no blanket, no, he's still just like, gotta lay completely still, or else.
So anyway, Shitatsu asks if his arm hurts. He's like, no, we got healed up after the combat. No, not that. I mean, from when we were kids. Because, she broke his arm when they fought over whether or not they were going to go to, Devil Hunter Camp or whatever. And she's like, and he says, yeah, it does. Shitatsu says, oh, I'm sorry. And then Gakuro says, by the way, you were awfully nice to me today. He's like, what is this man? What is he? And Shitatsu says, it's because you were like him. What are you talking about? When we fought the level 3, I saw you in the same way I saw our father. Putting everything you had on the line, including your own life, just like father. If you ended up doing what he did, then I feel like it would have been my fault again. My only family gone because of me. Okay. It's getting even weirder now, like this whole like family dynamic. I understand the point that we're supposed to be taking from this, and the dramatic reading of it is like, look, Shitatsu feels traumatized by the death of their father. Yeah. Understandable.
Yes.
She doesn't want to lose the only other family that she has. Definitely get that.
In a situation that was caused primarily because she was like making a mistake. She like chose to go in too hard and kind of got in a bad situation she had to be saved from. That's what got Gakuro involved.
But the fact that she doesn't go, I'm being nice to you because I was afraid of losing you, but instead says, I'm being nice to you because you're reminding me of Dad, is weird. Because that is how this point begins.
Yeah.
I know what the actual point is. You needed someone to rewrite this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's not the best way of like executing this dialogue.
Zeno, his words to Gakuro of, hasn't it been years since you saw her? and yet she shows that side of her in front of you. Doesn't that mean she's been thinking of you as family this whole time? Whether you're raised by blood or not, doesn't matter.
Also, hot.
Also, who brought up that point? Just you. This was not a point of any kind before this. Anyway, Shitatsu is like just fully breaking down, like crying now, and is like grabbed onto Gakuro and is hugging him. Is like, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again. Please don't. And Gakuro pats her on the head and says, "It's okay. No one's going to die like our dad did. Not me or anyone else. That's the kind of captain I will become." Honestly, like that moment is actually kind of nice if you don't, you know, have that voice and taunt over top of it. Yeah, anyway, we very suddenly transition to like, oh, bad stuff's coming. Level 4s will be here in less than a week. Wait, what? This sudden? They're coming. We gotta train Gakuro. Okay.
This is like the plot of every new Exorcist arc. Is like, some big enemy's coming. We're gonna have to train Gakuro. It's gonna be the most intense training he's ever had to go through in his life because he's not equipped for it. Like, this has just been the premise of like when Shiroha was gonna fight him, and then when they were gonna go on this training, and then when the other guy was gonna show up at the camp. Like, it's always like Gakuro needs to be trained immediately for a big new dangerous threat. So it's starting to lose its luster a little bit.
Two on Ice.
Nick, 2 on Ice, a series that is definitely sticking around.
Oh boy. Chapter 26. So Homura and Sora's score is 60.71. I like how the audience just doesn't know what that means.
I have no idea. I was like, that seems low. Wait, isn't it out of 100?
But anyway, Ayuma and Kisara have taken the ice and are starting to skate together. And they're just thinking, like, look, the next 3 minutes, the ice will be a world only for the two of us. And
just the two of us.
It's not that one.
Damn.
It's the song called Atlas 2. And there's some stuff about like the composition of it that came from a podcast and stuff. So this is not like a classic song. This is like a modern song because someone was on a podcast to talk about it. So they start off by doing a single twist lift, and it's like, hey,
important question.
Yes.
What you're gonna do this? I don't care who your partner is. It can be anybody. What's your song gonna be? This is your final dance, presumably before the end of the series, and I guess in this hypothetical your existence.
I actually think it would be fun to do something to the Beastars opening because there's like a dance thing that accompanies that.
Okay. I guess my partner is going to be Big Bird, and I would like the thing we dance to be Sonic Heroes from the Sonic Heroes soundtrack.
Sonic Heroes!
Heroes.
But is it like just the original version? Is it a cover?
I mean, if we can get Crush 40, I would love them to be there. But I'll take whoever
Just
we can
live.
Get. They're just like, I don't really understand where we're here, but Big Bird ponied up some pretty big money to get us here.
Oh God, I'm listening to the song now. It's awful.
It's not the best. There's way better songs on that soundtrack, but for some reason.
No, not that one.
Oh,
I'm talking about
Atlas
the song
2.
that Kisara and Hayuma are performing to. This is just not my kind of music. It's one of those, I sing emotionally modern pop music things.
So if they were like, we're coming out and we're dancing to Ailstorm, though.
That would be very interesting to watch, honestly. Especially depending on which Ailstorm song it is.
They're just like headbanging as they skate.
Just two, like people in the prime of their youth going out and to show the world what they've got, and they're performing to "Fuck You" with a fucking anchor.
That's a great song when you know you're going to be skating up against Sora. You're like, fuck you with a fucking anchor, my dude. You're such a jerk.
They do this lift, and they basically just do it to kind of like get their bearings, essentially, because they're like, we're not aiming for points with this one. They're not trying. They're just trying to do something that they can reliably do consistently, and they're not doing that maneuver for points. It's a way of ensuring both their lives are safe, a signal that they can focus on their own world. Fair enough. And even as people like start watching it, even the people who are like, "Oh my God, Sora's so good," they're like, they're so in sync. And for the pairs moves is where they seem to really shine, the side-by-side skating. They go into a side-by-side triple axel and are like just totally in sync, and it is just their first big opening salvo. And it's just like
the big thing
they're really happy.
This is the big thing they've been doing though for the longest time, was like, this was the goal of the series. Like, I want to hit a triple axel alongside Kisara, and they did it in a competition. So like,
yep,
there is not a ton of space for them to continue.
The sky's the limit, Quinn. We could do so many. And it's not like they're completely perfect, because immediately they go into a pairs move, and the throw that they do, Kisara stumbles a little bit out of it, and it's like, okay, yeah, but just brush it off. And they're like communicating psychically as they're doing this. Like Kisara's like, sorry, Hayuma. But Hayuma just grabs her hands and thinks back, it's okay. And they go back into it, and we listen to a podcast by the Caboose to explain this stuff. But it's apparently not about two people, but about the type 2, the type of person type 2, a helper or a giver. In other words, someone who helps others, a supporter, a person who finds the most joy in giving love. And they do a big lift, and we just kind of like get kind of like a montage of moments of, yeah, we're gonna get into the end of this series soon, aren't we? As everything is kind of coming into a crescendo in this moment, all the thoughts that they've had, all the internal conflicts that both of them have been having over feeling like they're, not going to hold each other back or steal each other's choices. They're going into this together while protecting each other as well.
Yeah.
And they go into a big finish, as Natsu is watching them from the sidelines, being like, come on, show off your side-by-side. Another big 2-page spread as they're skating while making this beckoning motion out towards the audience. To us, the time we're here is life itself. And Yuki is backstage being Yuki when a trash woman appears.
I'm the trash lady. I want to skate with you.
She has gotten past security, and it says,
presumably out of pure force of will, or also that security guard looks kind of old, so maybe they should
stop it! Yeah. Stop it! I'm the only one in the world who will protect these figure skaters.
I was gonna say, maybe they just don't have great security for the pairs figure skating competition.
She has gone past security, and she just says, Yuki, I'm devoted to you. And that's kind of all we get for that moment, as we just move on to some people in the audience going, I kind of wondered, like, why would Yuki transfer to such an obscure event like this? And my feelings didn't change after I watched his performance. But Pear seems nice. And of course, they're thinking that while watching Kisara and Hayuma perform. And I like how their coaches and their senpais and stuff are watching different points. They're starting to get emotional because, like, our kids are growing up and stuff, going out into the scary world. And a big standing ovation happens. Hooray! Everyone's really impressed by this. And how does this start? Comparing them to our past selves might make us want to turn our eyes away, but we also need to face them because they've showed us a very important page in their lives. And Hayuma picks up Kisara in a big celebration. They're like, holding on to each other as we get the chapter title, 2 in quotation marks, on ice. So one more chapter, like
It's not that soon. If it was one chapter, I feel like we would know. I don't think I have heard news of a
next
new
set of
batch,
chapters. Yeah,
but it's not going to be far off. So I imagine
can't be.
maybe after the whatchamacallit Golden Week break is when we might hear
Mm.
of chapters getting ready to come out sometime in May. So possibly like 3 or 4 more chapters or so, because there is more to do. Like we have to deal with Trash Girl and Sora and like an actual confrontation, but yeah, like this felt like that was sort of a crescendo to these two and their story together, and then it's gonna be like, all right, now we gotta stop the bad guy from ruining pair skating.
Yep. I think that the latest set of new chapters started with Super Psychic Policeman Shoujo, which was just on chapter 8. And usually we go like around 13-ish weeks between new batches of series. But I mean that's not like a solid thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It does not seem like Two and Ice is long for this world. We've kind of been seeing that coming for a long time at this point, but now definitely it seems like we're winding down.
Yeah.
We'll see how things turn out.
It was still enjoyable. Like I'll
Yeah.
you know, I had my fun.
The
Which,
Elusive Samurai.
ironically, couldn't say here.
Chapter 151, aftermath of battles and stuff. It's chapter 151. Hamiyazaka, 1338. Some nobles show up. They're drawn to look stupid. And they're like, "Oh, I outrank you, Lord Akie, so we will make your victory set. And look at us being rich and hoity-toity and knowing nothing about war." And Akie doesn't like to see them. Shizuku gets some focus in this chapter a little bit. She feels something dangerous is coming by. Momonoi Tadatsune, the guy with the pompadour, he has shown up in order to challenge them. Also, the Kono siblings are there too.
Yeah, it's a real who's who of my least favorite antagonists left in this series.
Genba did feed them false information, but they still figured out that that was false. And Shizuku just feels like I feel like I've lost, in the battle between Stewards because the information preparer wasn't convincing enough. Natsu says that they need to hide the nobles, in the back of the formation and stuff. Akie says, "Hey, stay with the nobles to protect them and everything like that." The nobles, take over an army camp. They're like,
sorry, ignore
yes,
that.
yeah, okay. And they have set up a base in a Buddha Hall, which gives Tokiyuki a flashback to that time that they spent with Mima a couple of years ago. And how things have kind of been bad since then. Fighting starts happening. Armies clash. While the armies are clashing, it turns out it's a big diversion for a group of soldiers to swoop in and try and kill some nobles. And they descend and they're cutting off people's heads and stuff. And there is a very gruesome thing that happens where they're just chopping off heads and having people notarize them in mid-battle so that then they can keep fighting and also get the credit for killing people. Okay. And then Morinow comes in, goes after Tokiyuki, but no, he doesn't. He goes after Shizuku and has no one to defend her. He just cuts through her with 2 katana, seemingly just cuts her straight fucking in half, based on the slash patterns that we see. And blood spurts, and she thinks to herself, the restoration of Nisama's family, the preservation of Lord Akie's festive domain, there's so much left to do. I must exert more power before I disappear. And when things fade, she is unscathed. Her clothes have been cut in the place where Mornow cut her, but it just gave her a tube top. She's unharmed because she's got that divine power.
It just gave a little bit of midriff, gives a look, a fierce look.
So that's the chapter.
Yeah, I didn't think anything of this chapter. That's why I went on to Reddit on my phone for a brief moment and an ad auto played. Akane-banashi.
Just
I truly have nothing to offer on it.
Oh.
I like once I saw that it was like all of your least favorite antagonists are still here, and I'm like, cool, whatever. And then I got to the end of the chapter, I was like, not a fan of this, but whatever. Fucking, I can't. Just shake my head and move on.
Story 104, The Promise of the Past. With a nice color page of the crew together, along with Akane's mom hanging out with them, which is nice. We see a group of, we see Shinta and Chocho and Taizen all as, Zenza getting scolded backstage because they ate the snacks that were supposed to be for the performers. Shinta says, like, I'm sorry, I should have checked after Chocho gave me the taiyaki to make sure. I should have known. But Chocho's like, don't be so hard on yourself. It's fresh baked taiyaki. You've got to eat it before it gets cold. Come on. But the guy that the master is really pissed off at is actually Taizen, because he just keeps on making faces instead of saying anything. Like, your face says it all. Your face is saying, shut up about the stupid taiyaki. And so Taizen just makes a different face. He goes, So, I do like that.
Yeah.
The expressive face. Yes. Afterwards, they've all been scolded and everything like that. But Taizen just narrates, back then, I assumed things would always be like this. And of course now he's performing his rakugo in front of the audience. And he's going over, the tenant, is going to be collecting rent. Not the tenant, the landlord's going to be collecting rent from his tenants. And so they say, like, yeah, the landlord's kid dug up a statue of Daikoku, the god of fortune. It's an auspicious sign, a cause for celebration. We're going to have a big feast. However, when you come into the house, you must wear a fine Haori coat and give a little speech, he said. But this is a decrepit row house. It's full of broke men. There's only one Haori between all of them put together. So the plan was that each person would go in one at a time and then pass the coat back to the next person in line. It's such a silly idea. I love the visual that we have of, like, someone dying, the coat died. I'm going to be the guy in the Haori now. The first person goes in and he says, speech. I'm not good at speeches. And why are you glaring at me? Sorry, the weather is fine today, and it will be fair weather tomorrow. But who can say for next month? I'm sorry, that's not at all what I wanted to talk about.
He's like, what else?
Anyway, you got a feast prepared. You gotta give me some food. Come on, let's eat.
Go eat that food, bud.
And Chocho can just tell, looking at him, like, oh my god, look at this guy. He's just having fun. He never does that. He's just having fun out there. He just had to go and get inspired, and he looks to his side because Akane's right there, also watching stuff, and she's enjoying the show. The twist in the story, because the guy almost gives up the scheme about, I got to pass on the Haori, and the guy's like, did you tell them they needed that? Just bring them all in. Let's all just have a big party. And then we go into another flashback of Taizen's of the three of them, a little bit older, drinking cheap beer in a park. They say, yeah, I wonder when we'll be able to afford to have drinks at a proper bar like the masters do. And Shinta says, yeah, it's hard to imagine at this point. Being a Shinichi, having our own apprentices. And Chocho's like, yeah, if I get any apprentices, I'm going to hold a splashy debut event for them, even when they advance to Futasime. Aww.
And we're seeing that. Yeah.
And when Shinta questions him, he's like, "That's what's worth celebrating more than getting freed from working backstage." Fair point. Shinta says, "I guess the three of us can also give speeches at the debut, and by that point we'll be." And Taizen finishes the point and says, "Yeah, we'll be Okanban." Yeah, and they all toast and says, "Yeah, let's make a promise. Once we're all Shinichi, we'll get big and famous. And at our apprentice's debut, we'll get drunk on the good stuff." The memory fades into the present and ties in things to himself. The future didn't turn out the way we'd imagined, but at the very least, we can make good on the promise of the past. And as he finishes his story, the story of the Golden Daikoku, he raises a sake cup in toast to his friends in this very cool 2-page spread. There's a big debaucherous celebration happening in the scenery around him that fades into his kimono. Very cool.
Yep.
Big applause for his performance, and Akane comments to Chocho on the sides, "It's just like I thought. Master Taizen's a really nice person." And Chocho says, "Of course he is. He's my pal." And he kind of gives her a little shoulder bump. And the three of them all three former apprentices just reflect back on that time they had together, even now that they're separated. Aww.
Yeah.
Bittersweet.
It's nice, you get to, remind yourself of the good old days a little bit. This was good. This was a nice little closing to the Taizen story, and it was compelling, and once again, the story fits the scene. It's just good stuff. I also like that if you do the sort of page turn, you get Chocho holding the beer, and then you cut over, and it's kind of grown into the larger scale of Taizen holding the sake cup.
Yeah, you're right. Neat. And that's the manga for this week,
No
everyone.
One Piece. One Piece is
no
gone
One Piece
for about a month.
weeks. Yeah. So, Quinn, tell me, what was your favorite chapter this week? I don't know why I kind of started to do a walk in there.
Hey, Quinn,
tell me
what your favorite series this week. By the way, saw Dune. I imagine kind of expensive budget. I did get to hear Christopher Walken shout out Moadib, which was worth however much money they spent on that movie. I think like 200 million, whatever. It was worth it to hear Christopher Walken shout that out. My favorite chapter this week, I am going to give to Green Green Greens, which I really, really enjoyed. I thought this was just a great chapter. Oga looked really cool. That 2-page spread was incredible. I love that the rivalry with her and Haku is just like continuing. It's just great stuff all the way around.
Yeah, I totally get that. I am going with Undead Unluck. I thought that the opening of this Shiratori battle was really, really cool. I love the gimmick of it, and I like how cleanly it comes across in this explanation, even as we get a little bit of learning by doing via Nico having to pick it up.
Yes.
It's just a neat gimmick to this. Also, kind of generous to Lon to kind of give him weapons to use against her.
Yeah.
But
you gotta keep it somewhat fair. Yeah, you gotta put something in there. I think my character of the week is gonna be Haruyu, though. I really thought that was just like a great way to I don't know if this is closing anything, but I like that transition from Haruyu the rival to Haruyu the senpai. It's just a very, very clean, excellent sort of transition there in Blue Box.
Yeah, I dig that too. Should it be anyone else? I'm gonna go with Oga.
Okay.
She had, it's a big chapter for her. That scene of her pumping her fist when she gets the eagle putt, very cool. And I like how, she's just one of the coolest rival figures in Jump right now, like you said. How very understandable her whole situation is, how dedicated to her past she is, while at the same time, you can tell she's very stubborn about it. Like, she doesn't have to be going about things the way that she is, but she chooses to because she wants to just do things her way, and it's compelling. So that's going to be it for me. What did the audience think?
You, Nick, were the voice of the people this week. They agreed with you completely. Undead Unluck as chapter of the week, and Oga from Green Green Greens as character of the week. So, Nick, today you represent the common man. No longer on your lofty horse, no longer sitting on your throne of gold from your ivory tower.
I'll get
Today,
it back.
give me some time. I'm going to be back there. I'm going to rip off this collar. Just you wait.
That's right. I gotta be ambitious and separate myself from the people.
I'm gonna use them to leverage myself back up to my golden throne.
Listen, I believe that we need to eat the rich, but I believe that as well that there needs to be, a 1% of manga opinions. So, gonna lord it all over you that I like slightly different shonen moments than the rest of you.
All right, well, that's it. That's it.
That's the manga for everyone. Kind of a restrained episode this time, but we did still, I think, almost hit 2 hours. That is going to do it for this week. We will record again next Wednesday here on twitch.tv/RoloT. We do so in the evenings here on the stream. For exactly when we're going to start, you're probably going to want to click the thing to join our Discord server, because we'll send out an alert to the chat when we start recording. It'll probably be sometime between 7:30 and 8 Eastern time. Or if you want to check out past episodes of Weekly Manga Recap, you can do so on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com for all the audio episodes. Also, just, we got audio feeds. We got the Spotify and iTunes with it if you prefer to listen to your podcasts on those platforms. If you want to check out the video version, it'll be posted on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap. We have a title card done for us by Steve Man occasionally, and an opening sequence that has been animated by Milo Jack Stillitz and Winslow Cheddar. One of them's it's not. They're both not both the animator. Created by. Anyway, so I'm a professional.
You matched up with the people once to start immediately falling apart.
Immediately. Just gonna start having wrong thoughts about things. Like I think that cheese does not belong on sandwiches, and just have me falling out, people.
I was gonna say, well, controversial
Any
opinion, but there's some you don't want it on. But yeah, I think in general, I thought you were about to be like, I think cheese does not belong on pizza. It should just be sauce and other shit.
You should have the crust be on the inside, like the inner ring should be the crust, and then all the toppings should be piled around it.
Yeah, I should be grabbing pizza by the pepperoni, rolled up and densely packed together like a log that is then stapled to the rest of the pizza. That's right, metal staples you can eat.
God. Somebody get to work on inventing edible metal staples. Where was I? And Steve Man's art you can find anywhere by doing a search for Steve Man Art. We have a patreon.com/weekly manga recap if you want to check out some bonus content. I did a discussion with Quinn about a very weird little Spider-Man storyline from the late 90s. So that is the latest episode that is available. We'll have more for you guys this coming month, as we just kicked off April. What else? Oh, Ninja X3i, of course, who helps us prepare for the show in multiple different ways by keeping track of stuff that we don't have the attention span for. That Google Doc that is maintained by him can be found via the Discord server. You can make suggestions for a later series for us to take as a recommendation. You guys ask questions that we'll answer on a future Q&A episode, and you can just voice your opinion. Say like what who your favorite character of the week was, your MVP was, and your favorite series, and all that stuff.
Yes. And also there is a quiz, going to be a Jeopardy game happening very, very soon. If you would like to participate in the audience section of that, you can find at the WMR Votes account on Blue Sky. There's a link to it there. I retweeted, I think, or reskeeted it. You reskeeted it, so you can find it there if you look for it. You can go ahead and participate in that. And you can see that if collectively the audience is better than us two geniuses right here. And remember, Nick considers everybody who has worse manga opinions than him to be what he calls the pores. So if you don't want to be part of the pores, you need to make sure that you show up and defeat Nick.
Nick invented his own slur for people with different manga opinions from him. Yeah, and on that note, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.